Maya Rodriguez had always been small for her age, but what she lacked in height, she made up for in determination. At 17, she stood barely 5 feet 2 inches tall, with calloused hands from countless hours of practice, and eyes that burned with an intensity that made seasoned coaches take notice. Her dream was simple, yet seemingly impossible: to become the first woman from her small town of Millbrook to earn a college basketball scholarship. The Millbrook High School gymnasium was her sanctuary. Every morning before school, Maya would slip through the side door with her worn basketball shoes squeaking against the polished floor. The janitor, Mr. Thompson, had given her unofficial permission to use the court during his early shift. He understood her hunger, having watched her shoot free throws in the rain outside when the gym was locked. Coach Jenkins had been reluctant to let Maya try out for the varsity team. The team had never had a female player, and the athletic department worried about logistics, locker room arrangements, and whether she could physically compete with the boys. Maya's mother, Carmen, had to fight tooth and nail just to get her daughter a fair tryout. Carmen worked double shifts at the local diner to support Maya's basketball dreams, buying secondhand equipment and driving her to summer camps in the city whenever she could scrape together the gas money. The day of tryouts arrived with unseasonable November heat. 23 boys showed up, most of them towering over Maya by at least 6 inches. They snickered when she walked onto the court in her faded practice jersey and mismatched socks. Jason Whitmore, the team captain and town golden boy, made no effort to hide his disdain. His father owned the largest business in town, and Jason had been handed everything since birth. To him, Maya was an unwelcome distraction, a publicity stunt that would inevitably fail. During the first drill, Maya demonstrated why she belonged. Her ball handling was flawless, her court vision exceptional, and her shooting accuracy stunning. She moved like water around defenders twice her size, finding gaps that shouldn't have existed. But the other players weren't making it easy. They set illegal screens, threw harder passes than necessary, and generally tried to intimidate her into quitting. Coach Jenkins watched with growing interest. He had coached for 15 years and recognized raw talent when he saw it. Maya's fundamentals were textbook perfect, clearly the result of obsessive practice and natural ability. Her basketball IQ was already higher than most of his seniors. But he also knew the political pressure he would face if he put a girl on the boys' team. The school board, parents, and community would have opinions, and not all of them would be supportive. After 3 grueling days of tryouts, the roster was posted outside the gym. Maya's name appeared in the middle of the list, making her the 15th player on a 16-man squad. She stared at it for several minutes, hardly believing her eyes. Other students gathered around, some congratulating her, others expressing disbelief or outright hostility. Word spread quickly through the small school, and by lunch, everyone knew that Millbrook High had its first female basketball player. The first practice was a nightmare. The team had clearly decided collectively that they would make Maya's life miserable until she quit voluntarily. They excluded her from team huddles, refused to pass her the ball during scrimmages, and made crude comments about her appearance and abilities. Jason Whitmore led the harassment campaign, convinced that her presence would somehow diminish their chances of winning the regional championship. Maya's mother noticed the change in her daughter's demeanor immediately. Maya came home exhausted and dejected, often with new bruises from overly aggressive practice sessions. Carmen wanted to march down to the school and demand better treatment for her daughter, but Maya begged her not to interfere. She knew that any parental intervention would only make the situation worse and give her teammates more ammunition to use against her. The breaking point came during a particularly brutal scrimmage 3 weeks into the season. Maya had been playing exceptional basketball, consistently outperforming several of her male teammates. Her shooting percentage was the highest on the team, and her assist-to-turnover ratio was nearly perfect. But none of that seemed to matter to the coaching staff or her teammates. During one play, Jason deliberately set a hard screen that sent Maya tumbling to the floor. When she got up with blood trickling from her lip, he laughed and told her she should stick to cheerleading. That evening, Maya sat on her bedroom floor, surrounded by college recruitment letters that had started arriving in recent weeks. Scouts from smaller colleges had begun taking notice of her skills, despite the limited playing time and hostile environment. She had worked too hard and sacrificed too much to give up now, but the constant emotional and physical abuse was wearing her down. Her grades were suffering, and she had stopped eating lunch at school to avoid the constant stares and whispered comments. Coach Jenkins was facing his own dilemma. He genuinely believed Maya could help the team win games, but managing the locker room dynamics was proving impossible. Several senior players had threatened to quit if she received significant playing time, and their parents had started calling the athletic director to complain. The political pressure was mounting, and Jenkins worried about his own job security. He had 2 young children and couldn't afford to lose his coaching position over what others saw as a social experiment. The solution came in the form of Marcus Williams, a transfer student whose family had moved to Millbrook when his father took a job at the power plant. Marcus was 6 feet 4 inches tall, with incredible athleticism and a gentle personality that immediately set him apart from the rest of the team. He had played basketball at his previous school in Chicago, where diversity was normal and girls' participation in traditionally male sports was encouraged. Millbrook had lost to Oakwood for 3 consecutive years, and the pressure to win was enormous. Coach Jenkins had decided that Maya would dress for the game, but would likely only see garbage time minutes, if any playing time at all. The gymnasium was packed beyond capacity, with many community members coming specifically to see the girl who had dared to join the boys' team. Maya's parents sat in the front row, her mother wearing a homemade jersey with Maya's number 15 emblazoned on the front. Carmen had taken time off work, something she could barely afford, because she wouldn't miss her daughter's first varsity game for anything in the world. Maya's younger brother, Diego, held a sign that read, "Go Maya," in bright red letters, his 8-year-old enthusiasm undaunted by the mixed reaction from the crowd around them. The game started poorly for Millbrook. Oakwood had clearly done their homework, exploiting weaknesses in Millbrook's offense and defense with surgical precision. Jason Whitmore was having an off night, forcing shots and turning the ball over repeatedly. The other starters seemed tight and nervous, playing not to lose rather than playing to win. By the end of the first quarter, Millbrook trailed by 12 points, and the crowd was growing restless. Maya watched from the bench, studying Oakwood's defensive schemes and identifying opportunities that her teammates were missing. She could see the patterns in their press break and noticed that their point guard consistently overplayed the passing lanes. Her hands were shaking with nervous energy, but her mind was calm and focused. She knew that if given the chance, she could help her team, but that opportunity seemed increasingly unlikely as the deficit continued to grow. By halftime, Millbrook was down by 18 points, and the locker room was tense with frustration and finger-pointing. Coach Jenkins delivered a passionate speech about effort and execution, but Maya could tell that the team's confidence was shattered. They walked back onto the court for the second half, looking defeated before the game resumed. The home crowd, which had started the evening with cautious optimism, was now eerily quiet, resigned to another disappointing loss to their rivals. The third quarter was more of the same. Millbrook's shots weren't falling, their defense was porous, and Oakwood seemed to be toying with them. Several fans began heading for the exits, unwilling to watch their team get embarrassed on their home court. Maya remained on the bench, her uniform spotless, and her hope dwindling with each passing minute. She began to wonder if this was how her entire high school career would unfold, sitting on the sidelines, watching other people live her dreams while she remained an unwelcome observer. The fourth quarter began with Millbrook trailing by 21 points, and the atmosphere in the gymnasium had shifted from nervous anticipation to resigned acceptance. Coach Jenkins had exhausted his usual rotations, and his starters were clearly fatigued from fighting an uphill battle all evening. Jason Whitmore sat on the bench with a towel draped over his head, his shoulders slumped in defeat. The other seniors looked similarly deflated, their dreams of beating Oakwood seemingly crushed once again. With 8 minutes remaining in the game, Coach Jenkins made a decision that surprised everyone in the building. He turned to Maya and told her to check in for Jason Whitmore. The gymnasium fell silent for a moment before exploding in a mixture of cheers and boos. Maya's mother stood up and began clapping enthusiastically, while several people in the crowd shook their heads disapprovingly. Maya stripped off her warm-up jersey with trembling hands and approached the scorer's table. As she waited for the next dead ball to enter the game, Maya could hear scattered conversations throughout the crowd. Some people were expressing curiosity about what she might be able to accomplish, while others were clearly skeptical about Coach Jenkins' decision to put a girl in the game during such a crucial moment. The referee's whistle finally blew, and Maya jogged onto the court to replace Jason, who barely acknowledged her presence as he walked to the bench. Maya's first possession was a simple pass from the point guard to the shooting guard, but she executed it with precision and confidence that immediately caught the attention of both teams. Oakwood's players seemed momentarily confused about how to defend someone so much smaller and quicker than they were accustomed to facing. Maya positioned herself perfectly in the offense, moving without the ball and creating space for her teammates in ways that hadn't happened all evening. On her third touch of the basketball, Maya recognized the same defensive alignment she had been studying from a bench. Oakwood's center had sagged too far toward the paint, leaving her with an open shot from 18 feet. She caught the pass, squared her shoulders, and released the ball with the same smooth mechanics she had practiced thousands of times in the empty gymnasium. The shot was perfect, cutting through the net with a satisfying swish that sent her teammates into surprise celebration. Marcus Williams was the first to congratulate her, offering a genuine high five as they ran back down the court. Several other players began to notice that Maya's presence was actually helping their offensive flow. She was an unselfish player who made the extra pass and created opportunities for her teammates to succeed. Her basketball intelligence was obvious to anyone who understood the game, and even some of her harshest critics were beginning to pay attention. Maya's confidence grew with each possession. She hit another jumper from the wing, then assisted on a three-pointer by threading a perfect pass through traffic. The deficit was slowly but steadily decreasing, and the home crowd was beginning to come alive again. People who had been heading toward the exits turned around and returned to their seats, intrigued by this unexpected turn of events. The girl who had been dismissed as a publicity stunt was actually helping her team mount a comeback. Oakwood called a timeout to discuss their defensive adjustments. Their coach was clearly frustrated by the sudden shift in momentum and needed to find a way to contain this new player who was creating problems they hadn't prepared for. During the timeout, Coach Jenkins pulled Maya aside and told her to keep doing exactly what she was doing. He admitted that he should have given her this opportunity much earlier in the season, and his confidence in her abilities was evident to everyone on the bench. When play resumed, Oakwood tried to pressure Maya with more aggressive defense, but this only created more opportunities for her teammates. She was too quick to be trapped effectively, and her court vision allowed her to find open players before the defense could recover. With 4 minutes remaining, she hit a three-pointer from the corner that brought the crowd to its feet. Millbrook had cut the deficit to single digits for the first time all evening, and the impossible was beginning to seem possible. The momentum shift was palpable throughout the gymnasium. Oakwood players were looking over their shoulders, clearly rattled by this unexpected challenge from a player they had completely ignored in their game preparation. Their passes became sloppy, their shots rushed, and their defensive rotation sluggish. Maya was playing with the confidence of someone who belonged on this stage, and her teammates were finally starting to believe in her abilities. With 2 minutes left in the game, Maya made the play that would change everything. Oakwood's point guard tried to force a pass through the lane, but Maya anticipated the play perfectly and intercepted the ball. Instead of rushing a shot, she pulled up for a deep three-pointer with ice in her veins. The shot hit nothing but net, and suddenly Millbrook trailed by only 3 points with plenty of time remaining. The crowd was going absolutely wild, and even some of Maya's harshest critics were on their feet applauding. Jason Whitmore watched from the bench with a mixture of amazement and grudging respect. The girl he had tormented for weeks was single-handedly keeping his team's championship hopes alive. His father, who sat in the stands, was having similar thoughts. He had initially opposed Maya's inclusion on the team, but her performance was undeniable. She was clearly one of the best players on the court, regardless of gender, and her impact on the game was impossible to ignore. Maya's mother was crying tears of joy in the stands, overwhelmed by pride and relief that her daughter was finally getting the chance she deserved. Carmen had worked so many extra shifts to support Maya's basketball dreams, and seeing her succeed on this stage made every sacrifice worthwhile. Diego was jumping up and down, his Go Maya sign waving frantically as he celebrated each of his sister's accomplishments with unbridled enthusiasm. The final minute of the game was a blur of intense action. Oakwood scored to extend their lead back to 5 points, but Maya responded immediately with a driving layup that showcased her fearless attitude toward contact. She absorbed a hard foul from a player twice her size and calmly sank the free throw to complete the three-point play. The deficit was down to 2 points with 30 seconds remaining, and the gymnasium was louder than it had been in years. Oakwood tried to run out the clock, but Maya pressured their ball handler into a rushed pass that sailed out of bounds. Millbrook would have one final possession with a chance to tie or win the game. During the timeout, Coach Jenkins designed a play specifically for Maya, recognizing that she had earned the right to take the biggest shot of the game. Her teammates, who had doubted her just hours earlier, now looked to her with complete confidence in her abilities. As the teams lined up for the final play, Maya felt a calmness wash over her that she had never experienced before. All the hours of practice, all the criticism and doubt, all the obstacles she had overcome had led to this moment. She knew exactly what she needed to do, and, more importantly, she knew she was capable of doing it. The referee handed the ball to the inbounder, and Maya began her movement toward what would become the most important shot of her young life. Maya caught the inbound pass with 12 seconds remaining on the clock, her heart pounding, but her mind crystal clear. The Oakwood defender was playing her tightly, expecting her to drive to the basket or look for a teammate. Instead, Maya did something completely unexpected. She took 3 quick dribbles to her right, creating just enough space to elevate for a three-pointer from 22 feet away. The shot felt perfect from the moment it left her fingertips. Time seemed to freeze as the basketball arced through the air. The entire gymnasium held its breath, watching this 17-year-old girl attempt to do what seemed impossible just 20 minutes earlier. The ball hit the back rim softly, bounced straight up, and dropped through the net with 8 seconds left on the clock. Maya had given Millbrook their first lead of the entire game, and the explosion of sound from the home crowd was deafening. Oakwood called their final timeout, their coach frantically drawing up a play to salvage what had seemed like a certain victory. Their players looked shell-shocked, unable to comprehend how a game they had controlled for 32 minutes had suddenly slipped away. Maya stood in the huddle with her teammates, who were now looking at her with genuine respect and admiration. The same players who had refused to pass her the ball in practice were now celebrating her success as if it were their own. When play resumed, Oakwood's desperation shot missed badly, and Maya secured the defensive rebound to seal the victory. Her teammates mobbed her at center court, lifting her into the air as the crowd rushed onto the gymnasium floor. The girl who had been dismissed as a rookie had just scored 17 points in 8 minutes, leading one of the greatest comebacks in Millbrook High School history. The shot that had seemed impossible had changed everything, not just for Maya, but for everyone who witnessed it. Coach Jenkins found Maya in the celebration and wrapped her in a bear hug, apologizing for not giving her a fair chance earlier in the season. He promised that things would be different moving forward, and Maya could see in his eyes that he meant every word. The victory over Oakwood was significant, but Maya's performance had proven something much more important. She belonged on this court, and no one could ever question her abilities again. The local newspaper ran a front-page story about Maya's heroic performance, complete with photographs of her game-winning shot and the celebration that followed. Word of her comeback spread throughout the region, attracting attention from college scouts who had previously overlooked Millbrook as a recruiting destination. Maya's phone began ringing constantly with calls from coaches who wanted to offer her scholarship opportunities that had seemed impossible just weeks earlier. The transformation in team dynamics was immediate and profound. Jason Whitmore approached Maya the following Monday and offered a genuine apology for his behavior. He admitted that his treatment of her had been motivated by fear and insecurity, not legitimate concerns about her abilities. Other teammates followed suit, and Maya found herself welcomed into a locker room culture that had previously excluded her completely. Maya's success opened doors for other girls in the community who had been discouraged from pursuing their athletic dreams. Young girls began attending basketball games wearing jerseys with Maya's number, and youth league participation among females increased dramatically. Maya started conducting free basketball clinics for young girls, teaching them the fundamentals while emphasizing the importance of perseverance and self-belief. The team's success continued throughout the season, with Maya becoming a key contributor who averaged 15 points and 8 assists per game. Her leadership on the court was matched by her academic excellence, as she maintained a perfect grade point average while managing the pressures of being a trailblazer. College recruiters began making regular visits to Millbrook, and Maya had her choice of scholarship offers from prestigious universities across the country. Maya's mother watched her daughter's transformation with immense pride and relief. All those double shifts at the diner, all the sacrifices and struggles had been worth it to see Maya achieve her dreams. Carmen had never attended college herself, but she would soon be sitting in graduation ceremonies watching her daughter receive a degree from a major university. The basketball scholarship would change their family's economic circumstances forever. The regional championship game was held at the State University Arena, with Maya leading Millbrook against the same Oakwood team they had beaten in that memorable regular season contest. This time, Maya started the game and played 32 minutes in a dominant performance that showcased her complete development as a player. She scored 28 points and dished out 12 assists, leading Millbrook to their first regional title in school history. During the championship celebration, Maya was interviewed by local television stations about her incredible journey from overlooked rookie to regional champion. She spoke eloquently about the importance of perseverance, the value of supportive teammates, and her gratitude for the coaches who had eventually believed in her abilities. Her poise and maturity impressed everyone who watched, and she became a role model for young athletes throughout the state. Maya's high school career concluded with multiple individual awards, including Player of the Year honors from several organizations. More importantly, she had paved the way for future generations of female athletes who would never have to face the same obstacles she had encountered. The precedent she established made it easier for other girls to pursue their dreams without having to prove their worthiness at every step. The scholarship offers came from everywhere, including some of the most prestigious basketball programs in the country. Maya ultimately chose a university that valued both academic excellence and athletic achievement, recognizing that basketball would only be one part of her future success. She planned to study business administration while playing basketball, with dreams of eventually returning to Millbrook to establish programs for underprivileged youth. Her final game at Millbrook High School was an emotional affair, with the gymnasium packed beyond capacity and a ceremony retiring her number 15 jersey. Maya spoke to the crowd about the importance of believing in yourself when others doubt your abilities, and she challenged young people to pursue their dreams regardless of the obstacles they might face. The standing ovation lasted for several minutes, with many people wiping tears from their eyes. Maya's legacy extended far beyond basketball statistics and championship victories. She had fundamentally changed the culture of her school and community, proving that talent and determination could overcome prejudice and tradition. The girl who had been dismissed as a rookie had become a legend, and her story would inspire countless others to pursue excellence in the face of adversity. Years later, Maya would return to Millbrook as a successful college graduate and businesswoman. She established a foundation that provided scholarships and equipment for young athletes, ensuring that financial limitations would never prevent talented individuals from pursuing their dreams. The gymnasium where she had faced so much doubt and discrimination was eventually renamed in her honor, a permanent reminder of what courage and perseverance could accomplish. The shot that changed everything had been about much more than basketball. It had been about proving that ability transcends gender, that determination can overcome prejudice, and that one person's courage can open doors for countless others. Maya Rodriguez had not just made a basketball shot. She had shattered barriers and created possibilities that would benefit generations of young people who dare to dream beyond the limitations others tried to impose on them. Maya's story became required reading in the school district's character education curriculum, teaching young people about resilience, inclusion, and the power of believing in yourself when others refuse to believe in you. The girl who had once practiced alone in an empty gymnasium had become a symbol of hope and possibility, proving that sometimes the most important victories happen not on scoreboards, but in the hearts and minds of people who witness extraordinary courage in action.